Great. So, a different screen for you, a different kind of a video, because this is Shakespeare. And we are finished with prose and poetry. It's but natural that I will have a different kind of start because William Shakespeare and the Tempest needs a new treatment, right? So I begin with some photographs. These are photographs which I personally took when I visited Stratford upon Avon about a decade ago, and this is the home of William Shakespeare, and it's become a museum now with many of the artifacts, his pen, his chair, his manuscripts, some of the original ones preserved here. And Tempest, as we know, is the final four, one of the final four plays that Shakespeare wrote, after which he came and this is where he settled. Yes, and it is believed by many that probably Tempest does find itself among one of the most the perfect drama that Shakespeare wrote, because when you define the perfection in a drama, you go back to all the qualifications that have been said by Aristotle when he wrote about the different facets that makes drama a perfect work of art. So Tempest does find different elements that makes the plays perfect, and perhaps it was because of this surety of its perfection that for the first time, the first play that was ever staged in front of nobility was The Tempest. It was not staged for the masses, not staged at Blackfriars. It was not staged at the Globe Theatre first. It was staged at Blackfriars, but it was not for the masses. It was staged first for King James the First indoors on the 1st of November 1611. So sure was Shakespeare about the quality of the play that he said, well, let the king see it first. I know this play has no errors whatsoever. Great. So from here we move to naturally a pictorial representation of uh, the the Tempest. This is from I've taken it from Google Images. The only scene where you see the ship sinking and the tempest that takes place that lends the name to the play. Yes, probably if you go through the play, you'd say, why didn't Shakespeare call it The Island? Yes, there must be other reasons to it, which you will realize once we come to the end of the play, right? The next. All right, now why is this important? There were a lot of geographical discoveries that was happening at that time. You've done it in your history also, the Renaissance. So, and it is believed that Shakespeare did use real life events as starting points for his creation, and then he used his artistic imagination and he transformed an ordinary voyage into one of romance and mystery and drama, right? So it is believed that when he was writing The Tempest, the famous shipwreck did take place, because there were 9 ships that sailed from Plymouth. You can see Plymouth, that part, 1609, towards Jamestown. Sorry. So, and it was around the Bermudas. Yes, you remember that's quite a haunted place, the Bermuda Triangle. The crew and the passengers were shipwrecked, and of course they did survive. And you know how where they survived? They actually found, while they lost hope, they spotted land, and then they realized the land was so gracious, the land was so habitable. It was not like those inhabited by wicked spirits and devils that one keeps hearing about. Those days of voyages were unknown, so lots of stories about unnatural things inhabiting the island. It was not true. They found the survivors, the crew and the passengers survived, and they came back. So probably, I've given you the source. History is fun. It's fun, yes, but I believe that Shakespeare did read some of the pamphlets that were published during that time by the company that had the ships there, and he decided to incorporate it. It's good to know that there could be a backdrop to the ship, and the Tempest, right? The Unities. I told you it was a perfect play. Now, when we think about perfection, we think about the three unities and how they've come together. So you have the unity of time, the unity of place, and unity of action. Unity of time is very clear. It does take place less than a 24-hour period. So for the audience, you're not sitting across centuries, across decades, across years watching a play. It just happens within a day. And as Prospero mentions in Act 1, Scene 2, at least 2 glasses between 6 and now must by us both be spent preciously. So within 4 hours, the action takes place. So two glasses is roughly 2 p.m. and 6 uh, is the time frame of the plan. So as you're watching the play, you say, okay, we've gone towards the play, which is a long play, which probably has 2 intervals because it's a 4-hour play, right? Great. That's how unity of time was so religiously followed. When we come to unity of place, except for the first scene, which is Act 1, Scene 1, which is on board the ship, the rest, everything is on the island. So it could happen that the first part was shown through on one side outside the main stage. Could be. Something else was erected, right? And the main stage has always been the island with different paths to the island, with different sides of the stage representing different areas, right? So the unity of place is also maintained. The stage is the island, and it's not Milan or Venice or Tunis or whatever other part of the world you might want to be. And you do find, if you go to Hamlet, you think of Denmark, and then you move to London. I mean, you're not moving. If you think of Merchant of Venice, you're not moving from Venice, and then you go to you travel, and then you're taking the ship and you're moving to another part of the land. You're not doing it, right? Rialto, one part Rialto, and then you go to the court. It's not happening. Everything is on different parts of the island, right? Unity of action. Now you see, the action is one. Prospero is setting all the wrongs that have happened, right? And exacting revenge. That is the big theme, the main premise behind the Tempest. You do have subplots. You do have Caliban, Trinculo, Stefano. You do have the subplot, but it does not hinder the main plot. It doesn't hinder the flow of it. It comes and goes. It's a part of some kind of comic relief at times, and then it moves on. So does not hamper the play, right? So unity of action is also maintained. Hence, the kind of perfection that we look for in plays, you find it in the Tempest. Okay, next. This is my favorite slide. Now, what I've done is I have color coded it to show you how the scene moves. Each scene moves from one part of the island to the other, and it also shows you how people were on different parts of the island before culminating to one spot, which was very close to Prospero's cave, right? So if you see the top corner, if you're looking at your screen, the left top hand corner, it's Act 1, Scene 1 on a ship, which I've kept away from the main frame. And you also have the list of characters only seen on board the ship. You have the bosun, you have the master, and you have the mariners. That's one, the crew, and then you have the passengers, all who are in service of the King of Naples. You have Alonso, Gonzalo, Sebastian, Antonio, Ferdinand, and others, right? So that's away from the main frame. And if you check the bottom right-hand corner, I put the little ship there because when the play ends, they're all ready to go back home. The ship is ready to sail. The same ship, the same state. Even though the Tempest has caused all its passengers to leave the ship while the ship is sinking, right? So we're talking about a fairy tale story. All right, now let's move to the island. If you see, where is Act 1, Scene 2? Right here, yellow. I've color coded it, easy for you to understand. You can always assume Act 1, Scene 2 to be that area where Prospero's cave is. And that scene is divided into 3 parts: Prospero and Miranda, Ariel and Caliban, and Ferdinand and Miranda. You will always find me putting Ferdinand and Miranda in red because, and if you look at the scene, you'll see Act 3, Scene 1, that's red, that's romance, that's That's the softer sections of this drama. Whereas with Prospero, Ariel, Caliban, and all the others, you have tension, you have revenge, you have tasks, you have punishments, you have different actions taking place, right? Now, if you see Act 2, Scene 1, it goes diametrically opposite Act 1, Scene 2, because there, the party of the King of Naples and his group, King of Naples and his party, have swam ashore, right? This is where they swim ashore, and you have Alonso, Sebastian, Antonio, Gonzalo, Adrian, Francisco, and others of the King's party. So it's a different part of the island, Act 2, Scene 1. So if you see, that scene is, the color again indicates where they are located. If you see the next, that is Act 2, Scene 2, I've put it right somewhere in the middle. I've moved it towards the water, just that so that it doesn't merge with the color of the island. I wanted to put it in a darker shade because these are the darker elements of the play. Probably the darker characters and the darker elements. Yes? So there are darker elements even in the mauve, but probably these scenes are totally dark. So I put Caliban, Stefano, and Trinculo, dark and at times a comic relief. So you see, Act 2, Scene 2 has these three, and Caliban keeps moving from the yellow part of the island to there because that's, he roams about. That's his work. We move to Act 3, Scene 1. It's red, and you know it's that has to be closer to Prospero's cave. It's that part, the same part of the island. You have Ferdinand and Miranda, and of course, the romance and love continues, right? From Act 3, Scene 1, red, you have again Act 3, Scene 2. Again, like I said, the darker shades of character have not moved much further the island. You can just shift them onto the island, and you'll see that they are actually slightly closer to Prospero's cave than the other survivors of the King's party. Yes, so Act 3, Scene 2, again Caliban, Stefano, and Trinculo, comic relief, right? Act 3, Scene 3 again becomes mauve. It has to be close to Act 2, Scene 1 because you're talking of the same characters, and the scene is devoted to Alonso and the others in his entourage, that is Sebastian, Antonio, Gonzalo, Adrian, Francisco, and a few others. Okay, so they are again, they are that part of the island other than Prospero's cave, but they're moving now towards the center stage, right? Okay, Act 4, Scene 1 stands by itself. Yes, there is only one scene in Act 4, Scene 1, and so also in Act 5. And Act 4, Scene 1, it is, I couldn't make it red because it's not all romance, because there is Prospero and Ariel there. So it is pink. It's still soft. It is still tender. But there's something else because there's a bit of the dark aspects that also comes into Act 4, Scene 1, making the red pink. There is a little section in that which belongs to Caliban, Stefano, and Trinculo. So they are the ones who have come closer now to Prospero, Ferdinand, Miranda, and Ariel, right? So we are diluting the romance with the arrival of the Prospero, Ariel, and more so with the arrival of Caliban, Stefano, and Trinculo, closer to where the love is, right? And then, of course, by the time we reach Act 5, people from Act 3 have gradually moved and they've come close to Act 5, Scene 1, which is very close to Prospero's cave. Yes, and I've made it green, make it a neutral color. For everyone comes in. You have Prospero, Ariel, Gonzalo, Alonso, Sebastian, Miranda, Ferdinand. You have the bosun joining in, Stefano, Trinculo, and Caliban. Comma, 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 comma. The other mariners, crew, everybody comes in. Because from Act 5, Scene 1, which ends, they're moving on to the ship and they return home. Remember, this is the last group of Shakespeare's plays, which is called the dark comedy, because there are elements of dark thought, revenge, yes. Conspiracies, yes. Uh, Magic, negative aspects of it, yes. But at the end of it, everything is fair because there is no war, there is only love, right? So it ends in that kind of thought that the ship is ready to sail again with everyone happy on board. So this will give you an entire movement of the play, the movement of the characters, making it color coded, right? All right. And then, of course, here, so that you do not forget the different characters, I keep Prospero in the center. And if you see, the closest is the shortest arrow, the Miranda. His brother is Antonio right on top. And you have the others serving him, like Ariel and Caliban and Gonzalo. If you see, Miranda, Ariel, and Gonzalo, Ferdinand are towards one side, Alonso is also this side. They form the more leave Alonso for now. Ferdinand, Miranda, Gonzalo, Ariel. The bottom part of left hand corner uh, is where Prospero's, you can say, his allies are. These are the people who serve him. They help him. Yes, and if you, as you move away from them, you have Alonso, who's a duke of, who's the king of Naples, Ferdinand's father. But there is a bit of negativism even in his character, but perhaps unknowingly. Sebastian, again, Sebastian Antonio, the two brothers, Sebastian being Alonso's brother and Antonio being Prospero's brother, both part of a controversy, conspiracy put right at the top. And if you move towards the right hand side of the image, as you face the screen, you have Stefano, Trinculo, Caliban. Caliban is linked to Prospero, but negatively again with Stefano and Trinculo to the right hand side. The bosun mariners, they are there, not directly linked to Prospero, but they're hovering around. I didn't put the master because master had already abdicated his responsibility. Now, if you take this image and you start putting in little single words, you'll see you have different relationship that Prospero had with each one of them. Yes, some positive, some negative. So we will revisit this slide when we finish the play, where we will put all the qualifications that we can to establish the relationship that Prospero had with the other characters. Make sense? Great. Then, of course, this is a little thing that I love doing. I wanted to find out the root of words. I found that Prospero is from the late Roman period, word prosper meaning make good. So if you're going to make good, that means you're setting right the wrongs that have taken place, right? Miranda comes from Latin mirandus, meaning admirable or wonderful. And that is how Shakespeare wanted. The only female character. We are not taking a reference that is made to a witch called Sycorax as female because she doesn't appear in the play. So Miranda is the only female character, has to be wonderful and admirable. Okay, I'm assuming it, but fine. Ariel, it's from the Hebrew word meaning lion of God. So Shakespeare made him powerful, yes, and airy spirit that he was, yes. So you see the variety. Late Roman period, then you have the Latin word, then you have the Hebrew word. You know, Caliban. It's very interesting. It's a suggestion. That's why I put a suggestion that his name was the anagram of the Spanish word. So you see the reading that Shakespeare had done just to create the names for his character from cannibal, meaning the Carib people. The Carib people are the American Indians who inhabit parts of the South American coast. You know, the Caribbean Sea. Remember, like I told you, geographical discoveries, and they were war like cannibalistic. So, probably from this, a suggestion, cannibal. Interesting derivation that you have. And Ferdinand, again from Spanish elements, faro, which means journey, and nano in Spanish means brave. So he is a brave young man who arrives on the island at the end of a journey. Yes. and the journey that deliberately ends there because he is meant to come to the island and meet Miranda. If you notice, I've still color coded it. Ferdinand and Miranda are red. Yes, Caliban is still a darkest shade. Ariel is blue naturally. And I have kept Prospero with a kind of nobility that is to mauve. I love color coding things. It looks nice on the screen. So interesting. So till the next time, we begin with drama Act 1 Scene 1. I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed preparing it for you. Ready for next week. Till then, stay safe, look after yourself, and do pick up the Tempest because we need it for next time. Bye.